Most gardeners think weeds are the enemy. They pull them, spray them, and spend hours trying to keep their beds pristine. That's a mistake. The reality is, some weeds are not just harmless. They're one of the best soil-building tools nature offers. The consequence of ignoring them: soil that drains too fast, lacks structure, holds few nutrients, and constantly forces gardeners to compensate with compost, fertilizer, or extra irrigation. If you want beds that actually improve year after year, stick with me and hit subscribe now, because what I'm about to share is grounded in real garden experiments, raised beds, and even hydroponic trials. Why modern gardeners underestimate soil-building weeds. Weeds grow where other plants struggle because they're excellent at scavenging nutrients, aerating the soil with deep roots, and bringing minerals from lower layers to the surface. Modern gardening advice often focuses on removing them immediately, but the result is bare, exposed soil that loses organic matter, dries out faster, and becomes a host for compaction or erosion. When I first experimented with letting certain weeds grow in rotational strips in raised beds, I noticed a dramatic improvement in soil structure and moisture retention within a single season. The weed that changes the game. Not all weeds are created equal. One standout is comfrey, but others include dandelion, plantain, and chickweed. These weeds have deep tap roots that break through compacted soil, draw up nutrients, and deposit organic matter when cut or left to decompose. For example, comfrey roots can reach 3 feet or more, cycling potassium, calcium, and trace minerals to the surface. In my raised beds, I interplant comfrey along the edges and let it grow in strips. I cut the leaves 2 to 3 times a season, chop them finely, and lay them as mulch around vegetables. The result is soil that holds water longer, improves structure, and feeds microbes better than a typical compost application. How to integrate these soil-building weeds without losing your crops? Start by dedicating a small strip or corner of your garden to comfrey or another deep-rooted nutrient accumulator. Over a 4 by 8 foot raised bed, I plant a row of comfrey along one edge. Cut leaves early in the season and every 6 weeks thereafter. Chop them into pieces roughly 1 to 2 inches in length and spread them as a mulch layer, about 1 inch thick, over vegetable roots. This method recycles nutrients efficiently, suppresses other opportunistic weeds, and keeps your crops shaded and hydrated. Composting weeds versus using them fresh is a bit of a debate among gardeners now. Many folks just automatically toss weeds into a compost pile. That's not a bad approach, but honestly it does delay nutrient release. Using chopped comfrey or dandelion leaves fresh as mulch, though, delivers nutrients immediately and, keeps microbial life active right at the soil surface. In my own trials, a fresh layer of chopped comfrey reduced fertilizer use by roughly 1/4 over a growing season, while also improving soil moisture retention quite noticeably. And if you've got sandy soil, the effect is even more pronounced. Water holds longer and nutrients leach less quickly. Timing really does matter for getting the maximum benefit from your weeds. Cutting weeds too early or too late, well, it changes how effective they are. Leaves should be harvested when the plants are mature, but before they flower, which is actually when their nutrient content peaks. In my experience, cutting comfrey when the leaves are fully grown but still tender, that's when you really maximize potassium and nitrogen in the mulch. Just chop the leaves with garden shears or a machete, spread them over the soil immediately, and then water lightly to encourage microbial breakdown. Minerals and microbial life still matter. Even with soil-building weeds, I still integrate trace minerals and pre-charge biochar. In a 32 cubic foot raised bed, I add 1 cubic foot of biochar charged in compost tea and, roughly 5 pounds of mineral dust or wood ash. The weed mulch works synergistically with these additions. Microbes colonize the organic matter, break down nutrients into plant-available forms, and deposit them in biochar pores, creating a stable, long-term fertility boost. The role of weeds in crop rotation. Weeds like comfrey and dandelion act as living cover crops. They protect soil during fallow periods, prevent erosion, and recycle nutrients. In rotation, I plant leafy greens in strips where comfrey was harvested, leaving some plants as living mulch around tomatoes or peppers. Over time, beds that include these weeds develop deeper, darker, more crumbly soil compared to beds where weeds are removed immediately. Now, hydroponic and container applications, even in soilless systems, weeds have a role. I grow comfrey or chickweed in small pots near hydroponic setups, harvesting leaves for mulch in soil beds or blending them into liquid teas for nutrient supplementation. Leaf extracts from soil-building weeds are rich in potassium, calcium, and micronutrients, which can feed hydroponic crops without relying solely on commercial nutrients. Common mistakes gardeners make with weeds. The biggest mistake is thinking all weeds are harmful. While some invasives can take over, deep-rooted nutrient accumulators are beneficial. Another error is letting weeds go to seed. They can self-sow excessively. I recommend cutting before flowering, using chopped leaves as mulch, and managing root spread by periodic division. Finally, ignoring microbial synergy limits soil improvement. Weeds feed microbes, but microbes must be supported with moisture, minerals, and organic matter for full benefit. When you'll notice the difference. The first season, expect subtle soil improvements, darker topsoil, better water retention, and more earthworm activity. By the second season, the soil structure is noticeably more friable, roots penetrate more easily, and vegetables require less supplemental fertilization. Beds develop a natural resilience to drought and compaction that typical compost applications alone rarely achieve. Why this approach beats compost alone. By combining weed mulch with compost, biochar, and minerals, you get immediate nutrient availability, enhanced microbial activity, and a soil that continues to build itself season after season. This is why serious gardeners who want long-term productivity embrace these weeds instead of fighting them. Getting started in your garden. Start small. Dedicate a strip in a raised bed or backyard garden to comfrey, dandelion, or chickweed. Cut leaves 2 to 3 times per season before flowering, chop, and spread them around your crops. Add charged biochar and minerals for long-term soil health. Observe water retention, nutrient cycling, and plant vigor over multiple seasons. Adjust ratios based on soil type. Sandy soils benefit from extra mulch and biochar. Clay soils from slightly less biochar and frequent weed pruning. The bottom line. So-called weeds can be among the most valuable tools in a gardener's arsenal. They build soil faster, more effectively, and more sustainably than compost alone. By understanding which weeds to keep, when to harvest them, and how to integrate them with minerals and carbon amendments, you can reduce fertilizer use, improve soil structure, and grow healthier, more resilient plants. Subscribe to the Husbandry channel for tested, practical strategies to turn nature's overlooked helpers into your most effective soil-building allies. Share this video with a serious gardener who wants to grow better food with less effort and fewer inputs. When we learn to work with these plants instead of against them, our gardens become stronger, healthier, and far more productive year after year.